everyone, welcome back. Dr. Glassmoyer here. Today, as promised, we're going to be exploring the topic of boundaries. Boundaries are something that I get probably 90% of the questions that come in are either directly or indirectly related to the topic of boundaries. A boundary basically involves taking responsibility for yourself, your feelings, your choices, and allowing those in your life to also take responsibility for their own feelings and choices, etc. So, how does this translate and why is it important, particularly as we're talking about emotionally abusive relationships? Emotional abuse is all about control. And one of the ways that we can control someone else is by telling them what they think, what they feel, what they want, what they don't want. Control is about defining another human being and acting as if you can know that other person better than they in fact know themselves. So one of the saddest things that happens over the course of an emotionally abusive relationship is that the victim starts to lose sight of themselves. They don't know anymore what they are passionate about, what they like, what they don't like, because they've spent whatever amount of time they've been in this relationship living the other person's reality, conforming to the man's ideal of who she should be, what she should look like, what she should wear, what she should say, what she shouldn't say. So it's very difficult to maintain a healthy sense of self in an emotionally abusive relationship. Boundaries allow you to do this. I'm going to tell you that once you begin to learn about boundaries and start to assert them in your life, you will feel a ripple. Anytime we change something, even if we're changing it in a healthy way, oftentimes we get this pushback from the people around us, this sort of force of change back. I'm used to you the way you were. I like you the way you were. And so this can be very, very confusing because one of the most difficult things for women in particular in asserting boundaries is that we are socialized to believe that it's somehow selfish to factor our needs into an equation, that we should be taking care of those around us. If someone needs our help, that we should be there. We should show up no matter what. And the truth of the matter in life is that when we say yes to something, we are saying no to something else. And having a healthy boundary involves being able to, number one, be in touch with that, and number two, to be able to communicate that. So, boundaries really kind of start with giving yourself permission to say no. And knowing that no is a complete sentence. That you don't have to explain to the other person why you can't. Certainly it's fine if you would like to do that, but it's just really important that you know you don't have to do that. In an emotionally abusive relationship, you are taught over time that no's not okay, that you are not allowed to say that. And if you try to assert even a compromise and you're going through and explaining all of this, you're going to find yourself in this circular twisting and turning where oftentimes your needs are disregarded in the end anyway, right? So in order to try to avoid the backlash, women don't even try to say no after a while. They don't even try to assert what they would need or want or prefer. So boundaries involve taking responsibility for ourselves and our choices. So how does this play out? Let's say in your relationship with your emotional abuser that he told you what to think, what to feel. He made you responsible for what he feels. So let's say that you go to the grocery store, and when you come back, he's upset and angry because you were gone so long, and questioning what you were really doing, and all of these things. So he might say something like, you know what, when you do that, you make me so jealous, or you make me so mad. Here's the truth, ladies. When you go to the grocery store and you're gone longer than I expect for you to be gone, I feel his side of the street. He's not going to admit it. I feel it could be any number of things. I feel insecure. I feel afraid. I feel like I've lost control over you. I feel angry. I feel frightened. It could be any number of things. But instead, he tells you, you make me feel blank. We never make someone else feel a certain way, nor can anyone else make us feel a certain way when we have healthy boundaries. This is something that takes a while to digest, so be patient with yourself. When we feel upset or angry, if you pay attention to the language that you use, oftentimes it's going to be that, you know what, you made me really angry. You made me really sad. You made me really upset. The truth of the matter is, no one else is responsible for our feelings but us. So separating that, when you said that, when you yelled at me, it's not when you yelled at me, you made me feel such and such. It's like when you yelled at me, I felt afraid. I felt sad. I felt alone. Whatever it is. And you may see that there's a connection, certainly, between what another person does and how we feel, but we could feel an infinite number of ways, and that other person is not making us feel any specific way. So Boundaries 101. First, it's about taking responsibility for your choices and your feelings. Number 2, it's about communicating those in a way to the people around you where you don't have to go into some big explanation about it. You simply are stating what you need, want, don't want, whatever it is. Number 3, and this is absolutely critical, this is where a lot of people get confused. We don't set boundaries to get another person to do something or not do something. We are not setting a boundary to get a specific outcome from someone else. We set boundaries to protect ourselves and to maintain our separateness. So when you communicate to someone what your boundary is on something, how they respond, what they say, what they think, what they feel is their side of the street. It's not your responsibility. And that, when you first start thinking about this, is different, hard to understand, worth the effort, absolutely life-changing. So when you hear me in videos talk about his side of the street, your side of the street, breaking that enmeshment, which is so unhealthy, and particularly unhealthy when you are dealing with an emotionally abusive, controlling, perhaps narcissistic person. It is so unhealthy, and that other person, as you try to break away, will do anything to keep you from breaking away and finding your separateness, finding your wisdom, getting in touch again with your intuition. So as you begin to get in touch with boundaries, I encourage you to make it an internal process in the beginning. Before you really work on communicating those boundaries, if this is new and different and perhaps a bit frightening to you, don't worry about that. Don't worry about how the other person's going to receive it or what kind of backlash you're going to have to deal with. Start thinking about what you need and want, what you prefer, what you won't allow, what your limits are, and begin to create that psychic boundary that protects you. So this is just the very beginning, and it's a lot to take in. As you do this, if you're like most people, it's going to bring up so many questions. But if you stick to the basics, that it's about taking responsibility for your choices and your feelings. It's about creating separateness between you and all that is not you. And finally, it is really about creating a safe place for you to be in the world. So boundaries are essential to our emotional health and worth learning about, worth practicing, worth asking questions about. And when you're dealing with an emotionally abusive person, remember, there's going to be a backlash as you begin to change. And as you do, again, this is something you're going to hear me say over and over and over again. A boundary allows you to step back. The abuser wants to press in. He wants to engage you. He wants to enmesh you. And with boundaries, you're going to begin to break that and you're going to step back. You don't have to respond to everything that he says or does. You don't have to. You have a choice. And that choice says no. And no is a complete sentence. So stay tuned. We're going to talk a lot more about this because it's important and it's complex, but I just want you to start thinking a little bit about, this sense of, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I want. I don't know what my passions are. It's really scary. He's told me all these years about these things, and just beginning that process is a huge first step. And ultimately, it's going to take you a long way, and it's going to take you to a much healthier place, not just with him. If he's with you, whether you've broken up with him, whether you're co-parenting, whatever. But this is going to have a huge positive impact on all your relationships and on you, your sense of self, and your emotional well-being. So thanks for tuning in. I'm going to look forward to seeing you again next time.